Hi, this is Gabe from FluentForever.com. At this point, you've seen and heard all of the vowels and consonants of French, and there are a lot of them, but not to worry. If you're using one of my pronunciation trainers, it'll take you through each of the sounds you've encountered here, teach you the spellings that produce those sounds, and push them into your long-term memory. And if you're not, that's okay too. The goal of these videos was to give you a passing familiarity with all the available sounds, so that when you study them in detail, they're not going to be totally new to you. That'll make them easier to learn. In either case, I want to cover 4 important French spelling rules before we finish, because these are the rules that require just a touch of explanation, rather than just straight memorization. The first rule is the rule of silent final consonants. More often than not, if you see a consonant at the end of a French word, don't pronounce it. This is why you don't hear any P's, D's, or T's in loup, réchaud, or gant. There is a simple way to remember whether or not to pronounce a final consonant in French. If it's in the word careful, C, R, F, or L, then generally pronounce it. That'll give you trafic, trésor, golf, and email. But if it's not one of those 4 consonants, generally leave it silent. I say generally here for 2 reasons. 1, because French has a fair number of exceptions, though not nearly as many as English. And 2, because of our second spelling rule, the rule of liaison. French likes to string together all of its words, eliminating any pauses between them, which makes most French sentences sound like one long jumbled word. You don't say une épaule est une partie du corps, you say une épaule est une partie du corps. When you do this, you'll occasionally stick a word with a silent final consonant or 2. In our example sentence, we have est, next to a word that starts with a vowel, in this case, une. And that causes a problem. How do you string together and une? You can try to say et une, but the French don't really like having 2 vowels in a row. They do it sometimes, but they really don't like it. They prefer instead to separate them with consonants when possible. And so in that context, they will start to pronounce the previously silent consonants. And you'll get est une. L'épaule est une partie du corps. This is called liaison, and the rules governing when you do it and when you don't are complex. They involve grammar and things, and your grammar book, if it's any good, will eventually cover it. For now, I just want you to keep your ears open. And anytime you notice a French person pronouncing what you know is a silent consonant, then be aware you just ran into a liaison. 2 more rules, and then we're done. The first one relates to the consonants C, G, and the pair SC. All 3 of these have a hard pronunciation and a soft one, which is an obnoxious concept that we actually have in English too. We too have a hard C, as in cat, k, and a soft C, s, as in city. The hard and soft pronunciations for those consonants in French are as follows. In terms of hard, French has k as in câble, g as in gorge, and sk as in sculpture. These are actually the same ones that we use in English. For soft pronunciations, French has s as in cigarette, just like in English, and 2 newish ones. We have je as in orange, and s as in ascenseur. The rules governing which pronunciation to use are pretty much the same as they are in English, although you may not consciously know those rules in English. And so basically, you choose the hard pronunciation, in this case k, g, and sk, when the next vowel is an A, an O, or a U, or when the next letter is a consonant. So this word is pronounced grève with a hard G, g, grève. You use the soft pronunciation when the next vowel is an I, an E, or a Y. And so this word is pronounced ciel with a soft C, ciel. Remember those nasal vowels at the end of the last video? We had en, on, and un. The way you spell those in French is by sticking an M or an N after a vowel. So if you start with an A, and you put an N afterwards, you get en. And as we mentioned earlier, you don't pronounce the N. That gives you words like ampoule, gant, and ruban. So what happens when you actually want a word with an N or an M in it? Is there a way to make all those N's and M's stop producing nasal vowels and actually sound like N's and M's? And naturally, there is. N's and M's stop making nasals in two scenarios. When they come right before other vowels, as in animal, ami, and l'âme, or when you have two N's or M's in a row, as in anniversaire, gramme, and anneau. And that is it. To quickly review, we talked about 4 basic rules. First, that you don't pronounce final consonants except for C, R, F, and L, the consonants in the word careful. 2, that you do pronounce final consonants when they form a liaison, when they come right before another word that starts with a vowel. So you get things like est une instead of est une. 3rd, how CG and SC are pronounced hard when they're in front of A's, O's, and U's, as in câble, gorge, and sculpture, or followed by consonant, as in grève, and they're pronounced soft when they're followed by I's, E's, and Y's, as in cigarette, orange, and ascenseur. And last, we cover the nasal vowel spellings, which are vowels followed by silent N's or M's, as in ampoule, gant, and ruban. And when you want those N's and M's not to be silent, then you either put a vowel after them, as in animal, ami, and l'âme, or you double them up, as in anniversaire, gramme, and anneau. And that is all for the French pronunciation videos. If you need a hand in memorizing all this stuff and training your ears to hear it accurately, grab a French pronunciation trainer from my website link below. You'll have it all memorized within a couple of weeks. I hope you had fun, and I'll see you next time.